Welcome to the Building Resiliency Podcast. I'm your host, Todd Miner, and along with
Mia.
Hi Mia. This is our podcast for January, and Happy New Year to you all. Let's see. We'll have a couple slides we usually go over. Why are we coming together? We realize the need to foster resiliency in our family or in our community, emphasizing families that support our young people and parents who are the true strength of our community. We also want to discuss ways to build resiliency in the face of daily challenges we and our families face. And we also would like to discuss available resources that may be available to help in the community. Mia, do you want to go over our background, please?
Background on the Matthew E. Miner Awareness Foundation. Todd and I are the founders, co-founders, and advocates for our online child safety. We lost our son at 12 years old. Matthew, the foundation namesake to these online challenges. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization created in 2019 and are committed to bringing awareness about cyberbullying, such as the Knockout Challenge and Blackout Challenge. Is inspired to provide help to families coping with grief and loss after losing a loved one unexpectedly. We have also established a national scholarship fund for college-bound students to further their future educational goals. We have numerous scholarships have been awarded to graduating high school seniors. We are based here in Accokeek, Maryland. Our foundation is www.matthewminerfoundation.org.
That's good. Thank you, Mia.
You're welcome.
For us, it's a campaign born from the deepest loss, driven by the love and memory of a young boy who always worked hard to protect others, especially around with the holidays and New Year and everything. That's hits us a lot harder when you've lost somebody. You feel it more during the holiday season. We just got done with the Giving Tuesday that ended December 31st. But just so you guys know, where do our donations go when you donate to our foundation? Our donations go to the Memorial Scholarship Fund, which is what funds our annual scholarship, our continued advocacy for online child safety, whether we're going to different locations and speaking and things like that, or we're on Capitol Hill. And then also it helps fund our podcast content that we bring to you on a monthly basis. As we had mentioned before that our foundation scholarship, it's gone national. I think the amount is a little higher than what this picture shows right now. We might be at $4,000 right now, $4,000 or more. But donations are always needed. I think the end of March is when we plan to award the scholarship. So you have up to that time to continue to make donations so we can help young people in need that want to go to college. Mia, do you want to read that definition?
What is resiliency? The definition: resiliency, the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. The ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape. Elasticity. While in the ring we call life, you may get knocked down, but you are able to get back up. Turn it over to you, Todd.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Hold on, I was just making sure. I was just making sure we were all together here. Okay. Well, I want to start here and introduce our guest speaker for tonight, who is Derek Clark. Derek Clark grew up in Prince George's County, Maryland, and graduated from Gwynn Park High School. He attended the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, UMBC, and double majored in political science and sociology. Following his graduation, Derek began a distinguished 26-and-a-half-year career with the Baltimore County Police Department, serving 21 of those years in the K-9 unit. Derek received numerous accolades throughout his law enforcement career, including Officer of the Month, Officer of the Year, and the prestigious Silver Star, the department's highest award. He also served as Vice President of the Blue Guardians, an organization dedicated to representing, I can't see that piece right there. Sorry, this thing's cutting it off. Representing the interests of minority officers within the department. Driven by a lifelong commitment to service, Derek transitioned into a second career focused on financial literacy before retiring from law enforcement at 48. He holds investment licenses, Series 6 and 63, and life insurance or life licenses in several states. Throughout his work with the Fire League, Financial Independence Through Resources and Education, Derek continues his advocacy by equipping individuals, including first responders, with the knowledge to achieve financial independence. Whether in the field or the classroom, Derek remains dedicated to empowering others through education, support, and service. And I'll now introduce you to Derek Clark.
Hey, Derek, welcome tonight. We want to welcome you to our podcast. How are you?
I'm good, brother. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Yeah, no problem. We just Hey, we just read your introduction, and I mean, it's just you bring a lot of experience, and with that, I think we just wanted to turn it over to you for what you wanted to share with us today. We went over your how you got started, at school and stuff, went to college. You were in the Baltimore County Police Department, and you advocated there for minority officers and rights there, and I guess the equalities and things. And then also we went over your commitment for financial literacy. So now with that, we'll turn it over to you. I guess we just kind of wanted to go over, maybe if you could just, even though we had it here in your intro, kind of let us know how you got started with the work that you're doing right now.
Okay. All right. No problem. Just briefly, I enjoyed the many years that I served on the police department, but, there comes a point in time where you realize everything is going to come to an end, right? So you have to start making those preparations for that next transition in your life. And I just happened to come across financial literacy in a way that I really didn't expect to actually come across it and become interested in it. And that was, I was dealing with my life insurance policies, and I had some questions about my policy, and I realized that the way things were explained to me when I purchased the policy were not actually explained to me clearly enough where I understood how it worked. And I realized basically that in choosing something that's so important in life insurance, that, people need to have a clear understanding of the different types, how they work, and what's best suited for you. Because in that time of need, when you are going to be using it, those questions should already be clear in your head how it works. And you shouldn't have to be finding out things at that point in time during a tragedy, during a loss, that things either are working well for you or they're not in terms of what you have in terms of coverage. So it just got me interested in researching about, life insurance and finances. And I realized that, the whole world is surrounded, and it's everything circles around finance, everything. We have this term where we talk about financial freedom, you know, and then you sit and you think about like, what does that mean? You know, what does that mean for people? And it means different things for different folks. But for me, it's not just a matter of being free from financial burden, but it's being free to live your life in a way that you want to live it every single day. And I think that's important to teach people the skills in terms of finance that can get you to that point where you can live your life the way that you want to live it. And, you know, we're family. So, you know, and I know you have people in here who are not family, but we know what our family has been through in terms of loss, you know, and I commend you and Mia both for the work that you're doing in terms of keeping Matthew's memory and stuff right at the forefront of your day to day. But for me, a changing point for me in terms of life, man, in general, was when I lost, you know, Khadijah, my goddaughter, at 10. You know, so I realized then how short and how fragile life is, and that, you know, the time that we have here, we need to make the best of it. And I think that finances and teaching people the financial strategies is one of those ways that I can contribute beyond law enforcement, you know, and helping people in law enforcement, doing it in a different way, because this is just as impactful as, you know, finding that burglar that's running through the neighborhood, terrorizing people's homes. Teaching them the skills and stuff that can get you to a point where you can absolutely enjoy your life, and then teaching the skills for you to be able to pass that on generationally. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people don't do. Even though you might think that you're good in terms of finances, we don't pass that knowledge on. So that's what my team is about, the Fire League 72, financial independence through resources and education. You can, you know, 72, that's what we're big on. But a lot of our community outreach is teaching people those skills. So that's really how I got started, man. I realized that I was being kind of, I wasn't, my life insurance wasn't sold for me for my benefit, but actually the benefit of, I believe, the life insurance agent, which really got me into terms that I'm suffering through this, and a lot of people are suffering through it. And what can I do to prevent people from making the same exact mistake that I made?
Yeah, and really, Derek, Mia and I talked, and we thought this would just be a wonderful topic to get everybody started for their new year. You know, I mean, people make a lot of resolutions to either lose weight, do all these other things, you know, travel more and those kind of things. But when you think about it, especially like traveling and, you know, maybe like even me and I, we talked about maybe doing a cabin down on the family property and stuff later and stuff like that. But all that takes financial planning and just, you know, just being focused and very deliberate about everything you're doing with your finances. So all those resolutions, they're great, but you have to have that solid base and that solid foundation. And so that's why we thought this, and we're just happy that you're able to come on our podcast to be able to get people started the right way. And while you were talking, I was sharing your information. I shared your information. I pulled that up just so they could contact you. You know, just as we're chatting. So I'll pull that up every so often so that way they can know how to connect with you and find out more too.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because you said something really that just resonated with me. You said very deliberate. You know, and I was watching the news one day and they were talking about how most people make these New Year's resolutions on the 1st, and usually by the 17th, they're done with it. Right. So 16 days later, they're done with their resolution, man. And, you know, in terms of finance, man, and that's what one of the big things I really advocate when I'm talking to people is like, it doesn't take a lot of money to get financially well. It doesn't take a lot of money to become financially independent. It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of discipline. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, most people don't have that discipline, you know, in terms of the changes that you need to make in order to make the changes in their life. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. In my company, we offer this thing called a FNA, financial needs analysis, right? It's basically like a 15-page worksheet that you fill out, and it'll give you a detailed forensic plan of your finances, where you are, what you need to do to get here and there. I can't tell you how many people I've sent that to, but I can tell you probably about 2 people have sent it back, actually filled out. And that's just you filling out paperwork. So people just don't have that discipline. They don't have that focus. They're not being deliberate, but yet we're going to complain about it. There's a lot of things in life, man, that are obstacles, and there's nothing we can do about that. We can go into, socioeconomic, we can go into political, we can go into all of these things. But the one thing I harp on my daughter about is no excuses, none.
Right.
I don't accept any excuses, brother. And I know that might sound harsh to some people, but I don't accept, because I believe that excuses gives you a mindset of making an excuse tomorrow and making an excuse the next time. All right. I see the obstacle, and my attitude is I'm gonna go through it regardless of how big it is, where it is. That's the mindset I want my daughter to have in life, because being a young African-American girl, she's gonna have her difficulties, no doubt. Right. But I look at it as what one person can do, the next person can do. So I don't want to hear any excuses, because I want you to be as successful as you can be. And a lot of those things that we can do on our own to be successful. We don't need the help of other people. We just need to have the drive and the determination that we're going to do what needs to be done to set ourselves up as well as our families.
Yeah, one thing that you were saying is that I picked up on, definitely, and I try to apply that in my life as well, as no excuses, because you had your law enforcement career, and I was military, but I think we could see the benefit in planning and not putting anything off to the side, not waiting, at least even if you can't do all of it at one time, you make it in digestible chunks or goals, small goals that lead up to your larger goal. And then another thing that you mentioned when you were talking about the financial assessment and everything, I was just reading something where they were talking different things about, whether you take the advantages of taking your Social Security at different times, and then if you're married and all these other things. I'm like, wow, it's a lot to it. And then also what insurance policies you have if something happens. Do you have enough coverage for whatever, to maintain your lifestyle, or if you would want that policy to pay off your house and, other things. So at least those that survive after you are taken care of. So that's when I started realizing that there's so many parts and pieces to this. And I think I wanted to at least make sure that we were sharing that. That's the reason why you would have an assessment and those kind of things, to pull all those parts and pieces together. Because if I can't remember, I think I saw that form. Maybe you shared it with me. I can't remember, but it had everything, and it even had things that you didn't even know to think about. Like you were talking about different policies, 401ks, so, things that you might have on auto pay or whatever, but you just haven't had it all in one place. So I definitely agree with you that now's the time. And then when people want to give or donate or help a family member out or something like that, all that is based on how you do your financial planning. You're going to have some time where you're building, okay, I'm doing this, and maybe I have everything broken down where I'm investing in a couple different things or putting money in different pots and stuff. But later on, all that's going to pay off, where you can, if you want to help that niece of yours or that cousin that you see struggling, maybe you want to, give them $1,000 or something like that toward college and stuff. You could do it without hurting anything in your financial, in the running of your household and things like that. So I just kind of
that's the thing, Todd. It's one of those things, man, where, that's why the financial needs analysis, I feel, is so important, because, and it's free. It's a complimentary service. So people who don't fill it out, I don't understand why. I'm the one who's really doing all the work. It's a free complimentary service. But I say all that to say this is, man, it's almost like I equate that if you don't have a plan, it's like walking into the gym and just sitting there and just don't know what to do. Your head is just spinning. So a lot of people just get overwhelmed because they have no plan and they don't know where to go. So that's why that thing is that the financial needs analysis is so good, because it's going to give you a plan. It's giving you your goals. It's telling you what expectations there are. It's telling you everything that you need to do If you're serious about getting your finance together, it's telling you everything that you need to do, regardless of where you are. See, a lot of people I know can be embarrassed or whatever to talk about their finances, right? I get that. I always tell the story of when my wife and I were first dating, how I went to take her out on a date and I went to the ATM to get $10 out and I couldn't get it. I only had $8 in the bank.
Wow.
Right. So I've been on that side too, right? But
yeah,
to work and put myself together in a plan that enabled me to retire at the age of 48, being an officer, not being in a supervisory role, because people have this idea that you can get yourself out of financial problems by making more money. Maybe, but if you don't know what to do with it, all you're doing is giving yourself more money to mess around with, right? Because I found that a lot of times, regardless of what people's income are, it has nothing to do with their financial literacy. The key to being financially independent, and that's the one thing about it, the key to it is free, and that's just educating yourself. I made the mistake years ago of believing what my insurance agent told me. All right, even though I had every tool available to me to research exactly what he was saying, I didn't do it. I did what most people did, and you go on trust. I tell people all the time, you don't have to trust me, right? You can fact check everything I'm saying to you and make a decision on what's best for you and what's best for your family. But the point is, you got to have information so that when people are coming to you and they're trying to sell you different products and they're trying to give you different plans, you might not be as knowledgeable as I am. I mean, I have my licenses and various things. However, you have the basic concepts to be able to say, that doesn't sound quite right. Let me look into that a little bit more. Instead of just going on their word and putting yourself in a financial position, which is being gainful for them, but not so much for you. And that's the thing with us. It's all about education. I'm in a business. This is my business. This is what I do. Of course, I want people's business. However, I want, even just as important, I want people to be educated and not fall into the trap that I did. And I fell into that trap for many, many years. And when I sit back and I think about the money that was wasted, I mean, literally just wasted, it almost sickens me to my stomach and what I could have done with that money, but I mean, life is a lesson, that's the way I look at it. And it's my obligation to pass that knowledge down to my daughter. And we started teaching our daughter about money when she was 12, right? She's now 17, about to be 18. 12, she started taking lessons about money. And I'm not just talking about that knowledge that my father gave me. My father, he taught what he knew. He was big on savings. It was a different generation. He wasn't big on the investment part. It wasn't something that was taught to him. Me having this knowledge, I'm going to teach the investment part because I know that the investment part is going to be the one that's going to make the biggest difference in her life. So that's my obligation to teach my daughter in hopes that she'll then one day, God willing, teach my grandkids. And, and create that generational wealth that hopefully one day one of my kids or grandkids, they won't have to get up and work for somebody else. It'll be their choice what they do. That's my goal.
Yeah. Mia, did you have anything? You're muted.
Yeah, thank you. I just unmuted myself. Hey, Derek. How you doing? Everything. No, I mean, I thank you for that. It's roadblocks. Sometimes people hit roadblocks when it comes to financial, even in doing projects. When it comes to where you have to have where his finances involved in, you don't know where the finances is coming from, but being able to invest it and having a discipline. Three things you said: discipline, drive into where you're going to put it and things like that is important. But and I know Uncle Jay, I didn't know if we could put his name out there, but he was big on savings, and I love him. Yes, he was very big on savings, but I can't see why we can't do both. I mean, it's always seemed to be a separation in investment and savings, and so it's you know what I mean. So it's a good.
I think people. I think people go day to day, but they don't realize this is a battle. This is a battle for not where you are right now, but how do you want to live when you retire? Because if you're a consumer, if you do more consuming throughout your work life and everything, you're going to have less when it comes time for retirement. If you are the individual that will have that dedication and make those sacrifices during your work years, then you will have overall better golden years. You will have, if it's that Cadillac that you was always wanting, that's okay. That's okay, because you'll have that money then. But I think it's one or the other. Either you have it now and don't have it the way you want later, or you have a decent life now with some sacrifices, holding off and stuff while your investments and other things are making money, and then you can live how you want later. And like you, Derek, I'm just now like reading and kind of catching up on all this stuff, and I think about all the money that I made that didn't, I mean, I went through multiple cars, and I got one of those Hellcat, the Trackhawks, and got it all souped up, and all that money that I put into those things, and now I'm back to my tried and true Honda that gets me where I want to go, get fuel efficient, and it starts every time, no problem. But I'm like, what happened? But like you said, life is a journey, and so hopefully with what we're talking about now, this could be where somebody would hopefully learn and pick up earlier in life and learn, like you were you've been training your daughter and your your family and stuff. That's what we want to do also. Hopefully our listeners will be able to pick up something and be able to move forward and say, wow, all I have to do is change these couple little things. We're not saying don't live. We're not saying don't live your life and do whatever, but pay yourself, pay your future self, essentially, whether it's through investments. Yeah. Go ahead, Derek.
Right. And it's one of those things, man, where in terms of anything dealing with the family, man, is in order to move forward, you have to be willing to have those hard conversations. Right. It's funny how many couples I talk to who don't talk about finances. Like they're in the same house and they don't talk about it. They don't talk about life insurance. They don't talk about wills and estates and stuff like that, as if it's not going to be a problem when that time comes. It's going to be a problem. That's one thing, man, I have to give my father much credit for, man, because my father was, just like you said, he was a big saver. And, prior to him passing in 20, I had one of those conversations with him, his life insurance agent, and my mom. We all sat there on the sofa and we're talking about his final wishes, and it was probably one of the most difficult conversations I ever had to have, because I'm sitting here talking about my dad passing and he's still here. But the way that my dad thought about things, he knew it was coming, right? And because the type of man that he was, all about family and all about making sure that my mom and that we were going to be okay, he knew that those type of discussions had to be made, right? They had to take place, because otherwise you waste time, you waste money, because like when somebody passes, unfortunately, we know this, like your mind is not going to be focused on certain things, right? So whatever you can do to alleviate some of that worry and what you need to do, you need to talk about, guess what, beforehand. I really never thought about when my goddaughter passed. I don't know, man. I for some reason I never even conceived even the possibility of even having to deal with something like that, right? I mean I tell people all the time, like when I talk about this, I'm a big movie buff. I like watching movies, and it was one movie I was watching, Equalizer 2, right in the beginning of the movie. Denzel makes a statement, and he says, "There's pain that hurts, and there's pain that alters," and it really resonated with me, right? That one statement, because I'm telling you, when I lost her, it almost like it changed my DNA. Like I felt like I was a different person. And I mean, and not in a good way, I'll be honest with you. I could be straight up about this, not in a good way. And it took me absolutely years to dig myself up out of that. Right. All right. So then you think about that in terms of like what I'm dealing with now with the finances. You compound that with some type of financial challenge. What is that going to be like then? My father's passing was probably the easiest transition I've ever seen someone have, really, in terms, because it was all discussed, it was all planned, it just went in a straight line. And you could deal with that emotional hurt that you were going to have because all of the business was already taken care of. Because let's be honest, the business part is not the most important part. You just lost someone and you're dealing with that. But it made it easier. And you know, and life happens, and life happened right after my dad passed. My mom ended up going into the hospital for a month and a couple of weeks. And most people don't think about that, like, oh man, mom comes out, now we have to pay a nurse to come in and help deal with that. So that's where your finances and stuff comes into play. So now you've lost your dad, and now her income is cut in half. And now you have this bill on top of that you're paying on a weekly basis for a nurse to come in. Those are the things that people need to consider when you're starting to think about finances. And I know it's hard when you're in your 20s, but if you do it, you don't have to worry about it in your 60s and your 70s. You know, if you have to start worrying about it in your 60s and 70s, you're so far behind the game that it's going to be that much more impactful on your life because you didn't make the proper preparations when you were young. And that's my target area are the young folks, but I'll help anybody. But I'm trying to change that mindset, because in changing the mindset of the younger folks, you can change it generationally. You know, change it generationally by getting them to think about it and get their friends to think about it. And that way, you know, that you can enjoy life, man. And the business of it is being taken care of because you are planning for, you're saving, you're having fun. But in the meantime, you are making those preparations. So when you either can't work, and that's another one, you can't work or you just don't want to. You know, nobody thinks about when they can't work. Like, let's say something physically happens to you where you just can't work. What type of financial impact is that going to have on you? So I'm one of those people. I always tell people, hey, you always got to be thinking about a plan B. You know, the financial thing ended up being my plan B, and it worked out great for me because being in law enforcement, I had a lot of injuries throughout the years. You know, where I had to sit and think, like, if I was injured to the point where I couldn't work anymore, what am I going to do? Because the bills don't stop. The bills don't care if you're hurt or injured.
That's so true.
What are you going to do? So you always, I'm a mover and shaker like that, man. I'm always thinking about, I operate worst case scenario and hope for the best. That's the way I've always planned my life that way. So luckily, hopefully I can inspire people to get, you know, their stuff together. If it's not, or if you just want to do better and you want to learn some things, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I think you said something that I think Mia and I both can resonate with, because after the passing of Matthew and kind of doing that insurance stuff and all that, I mean, it was okay. It was enough to take care of the funeral and that kind of stuff. But it had me thinking, what would happen if something happened to me, that kind of thing. And then I was like, why am I focusing on all these cars and all this other stuff? I need to start focusing on, you know, I was already putting into my 401k and stuff. So that was good. But I wasn't like our house and repairs. I was doing some as they popped up, but I wasn't being proactive is what I'm saying. It, you know, your furnace, you know, something goes bad with it, you just repair it. But if you notice it's taking a longer time for it to start up or whatever, get somebody to look at it, you know. So I think everything, your finances included, just need a checkup, you know, like a checkup, a tune-up, you know, and that kind of thing. And I wanted to ask you, because I know you've been speaking, you've been going out speaking about this, and then also, if you could also talk about the Fire League and just what those two, you know, if you could talk about those two things too.
Okay, all right. So I'm an independent representative for Primerica, in the Primerica company, Fire League is what basically our group is called, right? So my sister-in-law thought of this. She actually is the one who brought me into the business. And Fire League is I'm not going to say it's separate from Primerica, but that's our group, and it stands for Financial Independence Through Resources and Education. 72 is a financial concept, the rule of 72, which basically explains compound interest and how that works. So that's what, when we're doing our community outreach, and we don't charge anything for going out and talking to these organizations, talking to these churches, talking to these groups about financial concepts. We just enjoy this. It's our way of giving back. I mean, honestly, because, there's this stigma when it comes to people who are in sales, right? I mean, so it's like, all right, they just want something from you, right? Which in a way, it's a business, it's a transaction. I get it. But this is our way of reaching out to people and talking to these groups. If you want to know more about Primerica, we can do that. But Fire League is our outreach group to go out and deal with these organizations in a way where, if you don't want to talk about products, we don't have to go that route. This products and education are two different things, right? The education is going to teach you what products you need. If you just want the education, you got the Fire League over here. We will teach you the foundation of how to build wealth, how to build your 401ks and all of that kind of thing. But if you need an individual plan, then we're going to have to switch it over to the Primerica side, because we are representatives of that company. So depending upon what services you need or you require is depending upon which version of Derek you get, because I'm more than willing to do both. I'm more than willing to do both. So
it's like a Swiss Army knife. And just real quick, man, then I'll let you speak. But the 72, does that speak to every 7 years what you have in your investments double? Is that?
Yeah. So the rule of 72, for those who don't know, the rule of 72 is a financial concept. It's basically going to give you an idea of how long it's going to take for your money to double. All right. So for example, those of us who have accounts at, let's say, PNC, Bank of America, and all these kind of things, when you get your statement and it tells you how much money you earn on your money, it's going to be less than 1%, more than likely, right? So you take that 1%, we'll use 1% as a whole number, 1 divided into 72 times. So if you don't contribute another dollar to your account, that's how long it's going to take for your money to double, 72 years, right? So flip that to something else. Let's say you're looking at your 401k and you're looking at your rate of return for your investment or whatever you have, and it's earning on average 12%. 12 into 72, 6 times. So every 6 years, your money is doubling. That's the power of investing, right? So that's the thing that people need to understand. You can have a lot of money in the bank, earning zero money. Your money's not working. And I hear people all the time say, and they say this all the time, they're fearful of investing. They don't trust it. And I tell them all the time, you're part of investing. You're just on the losing side if you just have your money in the bank, because they're taking your money and they're investing it. Otherwise, how would the bank earn money? If they were just taking your money and holding it for you and just to give it back to you, they're not making any money, right? So they're taking your money and investing your money and giving you the lowest rate of return possible for it. So one of the things that we teach is, the importance of having 3 separate accounts. All right. You got your emergency fund, which is your bank account. You got a short-term account, which is for those anticipated purchases, a car, something like that you might have down the road, and your long-term wealth building account, which is your retirement account. All of these accounts have different functions, and that's the part of that FNA that's so important, because it teaches you, because a lot of people, their first reaction is like, oh, I need money, I'm going to my retirement account. That's not what it's there for. You will never get to the point of being financially independent if you're always running to that account and taking money out of it and taking a penalty on it. You're not 59 and a half, all these kind of things. So to have those good quality, those different accounts set up where they have those different functions and you can use them appropriately.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow.
Now,
that's go ahead, man.
Well, I'm gonna use me. I'm gonna use me an example. I thought I wasn't good. I went on when I guess I got mad with my company and pulled out everything out of my so I can't put nothing back in there. But and I don't have it anyway. But here's the thing. Do you do with
You can
having
start
most companies have their own, retirement plans, and should we have our own like 401k alongside with what the company has provided for us as well?
You
I mean,
yeah. So a lot of companies have
You mean
401k.
because you're not sure?
Yeah, so you can open up your individual retirement account. You can do an IRA. You can do multiple types of investment accounts on your own. I do recommend that people do that. It's never good to have all your eggs in one basket.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Never good to have you want to diversify, and that's in your investments, and even where you have your investments.
Okay.
But for a purpose, a plan. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I mean. So, like my girl said, she pulled all her money out,
Yeah.
Yeah, just to help set the stage, I wanted her to take that money because I was like, you're medically retiring and it's still early, and you're still young. We're not at.
Right.
I'm not retired. We're not at
the next day.
at the normal regular retirement age. We're not at the regular retirement age, and so keep either keep it in the TSP or whatever for the government, or put it in something and let it keep bearing interest until we are ready to go on all our trips and everything all together.
Right.
You keep talking, man. Hey, go ahead. I was just trying to set the stage because I know what happened. I was just like, you were just like, hey, I'm retired. Like a whole lot of people probably think that same thing when they're retired. They don't think that you still got a lot of life left, God willing. And so you could take a portion of that retirement and continue to invest it so it's bearing interest and making money for you to when you want to go on that world tour or to Europe or whatever, something like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like even with your retirement stuff, I mean, a lot of times, you can take your retirement out of previous employer and move it to your new one, or you can move it into your individual account with like a company like ours, and it can continue to contribute to it. Let it keep working for you until there's a point in time when you actually want to start making withdrawals from it. But I mean, but again, that's financial literacy, right? In terms of when to make that decision, because just like once you make it, it's made. Right?
Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's done. Cold book. Wrap.
But for me, the reason why I was pushing hard at the time, I was like, hey, no, keep it in there and everything, because when especially if you're individuals like you and I, when we retired, it's from the military, law enforcement, those are pensions. And I don't know how it works for law enforcement, but I know with military, Mia only gets half of my pension. She doesn't get the amount that I'm getting as living. And so that's where I saw a lot of those, anything interest bearing and those kind of things would be able to hopefully pick up the slack in the income or the lifestyle that you're used to living. That's where that would come in. And maybe you could speak to that, but at least that was my layperson thinking about it.
Yeah. And, it works very similar within the police department. Like, so if something happens to me, Tamika will get half of my pension for the rest of her life. But this is too what I tell people, because when I tell people like I'm 48 and I'm retired, a lot of people look at me sideways because they automatically are, you're not old enough to retire. Right.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's not, all right, a retirement is not an age. It is an amount of money. Right. So when your money that you have coming into the house exceeds what your living expenses are, you can then consider yourself financially independent. Right. So with me, I knew that I had no desire within the law enforcement community to be promoted based on several factors. All right, I'll just leave it at that. Right. So based on several factors, I knew I did not want to be promoted. But again, this is what I mean by taking your life into your own hands. All right, there are certain things that I can do to control my financial wellness, right? So a lot of people think by getting promoted, going up the chain, obviously you're going to make more money, right? All right. But me, I was like, I can start paying off all my debt, right? So that's what I focused on the last several years of my career, it's like, I want to be debt free. I want to be debt free as quick as possible so that when I do make the decision to walk away, I can make it. And I'm going to tell you right now, that decision came 3 years earlier than expected and 1 year earlier than I told my wife it was going to be. Because I was sitting in there dealing with one of those meetings with, you know, a supervisor dealing with some issues because of whatever. And I decided in that moment, and that's the power of financial freedom. I decided in that moment, sitting in that office, that I would never work the street again. Right.
Wow.
So with that, I was like, I'm done. Right. And I could do it because I knew that my income that I was going to have, you know, from my pension and investments and stuff like that, that we were going to be fine. Nothing has changed in our lifestyle. Absolutely nothing. Nothing has shifted. Right. But I took control of what I could take control of. I wasn't going to get promoted, but I can surely pay off my debt and get financially savvy and learn how to make these investments and stuff work. Getting rid of you talking about the cars and stuff, all the unnecessary things that I was paying for on a monthly basis. I can X all of that and add that to my investments and make it work for me in a way that I can walk out the door when I decided to walk out of the door. And that's a different kind of feeling. So when I'm telling you, when I handed in that paperwork to tell them that I was leaving, I mean, it felt like every weight was off of my shoulder. And that's when I knew I made the right decision to leave. Right.
Man. Yeah. Hey, you know, one thing that was interesting, I remember your dad always told me, get the biggest house you can get and the smallest car you can afford, because houses appreciate, cars depreciate. And then the other thing is I remember Uncle JC said, he would say that he was like, this is what I did right before I retired. Because I don't know if you knew it, when I was at the Pentagon, when I was in the Army, I used to run into him all the time because he'd be walking around. And then there's a center courtyard in the Pentagon. So, you know, I used to go give me a hot dog and music and people be working out and, you know, or I'd go running and stuff and I would see him. And I remember he told me everything almost close to what you just said. He said, I made sure I had a current car, made sure that was paid off. I made sure my house was paid off. I made sure I didn't have any bills. And it was just, he didn't say it all at one time. It was just like this thing, that thing, whatever. And even in the courtyard, he'd have his fork. You know, he always had his fork and stuff with him. The people would cook up a hot dog or burger or whatever he ordered, and he'd have his fork. I was like, wow. He does that. He does that when he's not at work, but he does it there too, right? So, but each of those little tidbits, and just to bring it full circle, when we were just at Thanksgiving, I was talking to family members, and but I think a little bit of that is starting to rub off because people are starting to talk about paying their car off and taking the amount that they were paying toward their car, paying it toward their house, at least pay some of that down, and also the emergency fund. So I'm like, wow, something's happening. It seems like, and it's not just family. I'm talking to people at work, and I think everybody's seeing how this economy is, and that's another thing, with the economy and different things going on in America and stuff. This is why you have to take full, complete control of your finances so you're ready. It's almost like being you're a financial prepper. You got preppers that prep for, like me will tell you, I got MREs or food ready to eat and all kinds of stuff ready for anything that happens.
For the next, I don't know when.
But I was like, what point is that if the finances ain't right? If I still got all these other things, because I don't think everything will completely go away, but if your house is doggone near paid off or at a level that you can afford based on what you're bringing in and that kind of stuff, and you got investments and things, then like you said, when those headaches come, because they come, like you said, you in the supervisor's office, and what that must have felt like, to just say, hey, okay, I'm done. Here you go. Put in your papers.
Right. And you know, when you sit and think about your job, man, like honestly, like when you sit and think about your job, and most jobs, it's almost like, I don't know what happened with me, Todd. Like once I got into the finance game, I honestly realized I was living my life in a box, right? And it's hard to explain, but I felt like I was living my life in a box, because no matter how hard I worked or how hard I didn't work, I was only going to make such and such money, right? Only way to make more money than that was to work more hours, right? So it's like, how is it that these other people are just like, they just seem like they're just living their life however they want to, you know? And that's when I realized it's not all about how much money you make, but also how you
make it. Well,
because like I could be working out on the sun and hard labor and this kind of thing and earning a very good living. But I'm not knocking anybody who does it. God bless them. We need it. But I decided I was done running through the woods behind a dog. You know what I mean? Looking for people who got somebody. I was too old for that. You know what I mean? Like my body was not going to hold up to that. So you have to start thinking in those ways. Like no matter what you might want to do, there's certain things that at some point in time, you're not going to be able to do physically. Right. So maybe to set yourself up in a way of earning money that doesn't take that physical exhaustion to earn those hours. I mean, you know, brother, working a 14, 15, well, I mean, just prior to me retiring, we had an officer that was killed. I mean, not killed, but shot. And we were on this call. I was on this call for 20 some hours, right? Looking for this guy. And to be in the woods looking for somebody for 20 hours wearing 40 pounds of gear is exhausting. You know, it's physically exhausting, it's mentally exhausting, emotionally exhausting. And I realized, like, whoa, dude, hey man, you're getting up there in age. This is taking a toll on you that it's not taking when you were in your 20s. You know what I mean? So
you can shake it off in the 20s.
You got to shake it off. You know, so like even with that FNA, I can tell you exactly where you are, where you want to go. But guess what? It might say you need to earn more money.
Right.
You know, facts are facts. Numbers are numbers. That's why I love them. They don't lie. Right. Based on where you want to go, where you are, where you want to be. So it might be one of those things that despite how much you love your job, you might want to consider doing something on the side to earn extra money, to force these investments and that kind of thing to get you where you want to be. Don't let your job dictate what your future is going to be. Only you can do that. Right. You know, no matter what you earn, no matter what they say you're going to earn, only you can dictate your future. And that's the way that you got to look at your life, or you're just going to watch it pass you by.
Wow. You know? And that's empowerment. That's, information is power, but that's empowering because, I mean, even for like where we are right now, I've mentioned a couple things to Mia, starting a couple different things and stuff. And she was like, wow, you always keep talking about that. I said, but the reason why I keep talking about different things, either, getting a rental or something that will bring in some additional income. I said, because, I think if you have a medical retirement or something like that, then you kind of feel, because I went through it when I got out the military, you kind of feel like, man, what could have happened, all that what if and all that other stuff. I've gotten past that. But I think the thing is one thing I realized exactly what you said, Derek. Mia, we could do a lot of things and for day to day, Mia could run it. You know what I'm saying? She could go check on it. Like if we had a rental, if there's issues, she could check on it. And I still have my day job, but we're working together. She's managing whatever that investment is and those other things. And I'm doing this, but we're still kind of lockstep in where we're trying to go, and then take that to either invest, maybe a brokerage account or something like that, or we want to reinvest in the property to maybe build something else, an addition or an additional rental or something like that. And so I wanted her to, like you said, we're so conditioned to be in that box. It's so hard to think what can you do if that box didn't exist. And I think that's what you're saying. It's like, hey, you have your 9 to 5, that's your box, but all this other stuff is just open. And if you don't have the time to, build something or like a farm or do something like that, or, build furniture or whatever other kind of business, then your next best thing is like a brokerage account or some kind of investment that'll work for you. And that's exactly what you were saying as far as people that have the money, they just continue to keep doing that. If it ain't broke, they didn't create anything new that we don't have access to. They either they or their families or whatever started it earlier, and then it just trickled down through the generations. At least that's my understanding.
I like the way you said that, man, because and that's what I tell my daughter, is one of those things where the starting line might be different for different people, right? In life, like you might have so many obstacles in front of you. Your starting line is a little bit further back. I get that. I'm not knocking that. I'm not diminishing it or whatever. But having that attitude that no excuses means that I'm going to do what I need to do to move that starting point for my daughter a little bit closer to the finish line, right? And hopefully one day through her hard work, my grandkids, their starting point might be right at the finish line, just because we've done the work and taught them the skills and stuff to move them along the line. Not that it's going to be easier for them. I don't care about easy, man. Life is not easy. It's just one of those things, man. It's going to be difficult, even more difficult for some people, but it doesn't mean you can't be successful at it, and you will fail at it for sure if you live in your excuses of why you can't be successful. If you live in that life, if you live in that, you're not going to move. You're just going to walk in the gym, you're going to stand in a circle and just look at everybody else working out around you. That's the way I look at it. That's honestly how I look at it, man. That's it, man. Like, just like you said, and have a goal. Like, whatever your goal is, I don't care what it is in terms of your finances, man. Just have something that you're working towards, because it gets you up in the morning, And I when I was working, I used to have to be at work at 6 a.m, right? I had an hour commute, right? But I enjoyed working out. So I'd be up at 3 o'clock in the morning working out. And my wife used to look at me like I was crazy. But I'm like, if it's important to you enough, you'll do it.
You'll do it.
You gotta fight. You gotta fight the criminals. You gotta get ready.
You gotta do it. No excuses. Because that's what I knew when I got home after being at work all day. I wasn't gonna do it because I was gonna be too tired. So the only way to do it and get it in was before work. Did that for years, right? No different than the finances. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm going to put away, I'm going to start with $50 a month, $25 a month, just to build a habit of getting into planning for the future. And then as I become better in my finances, I can contribute more. Some people can start off contributing $1,000, $2,000 a month. Okay. If that's not you, then that's just not you. All right. Your situation is what it is, but you can do what you can do. It's not about what everybody else is. It's about what you do.
You can do. Right.
Plus you had mentioned about the young people that I started looking at playing around with calculators, online calculators. And I said, man, if I was 25 and I just did $100 a month, so $50 every 2 weeks or $25 a week or something like that. How much would I have when I was 63? And when I saw, it was like in the millions. I said, what? I felt bad for my younger self that I can't go back to, but that's where these conversations are important for us to have, even with our son TJ. It's like, hey, make sure you put a little something away. Yeah. And so that's where we as the adults, that's how we help the next generation, by them seeing us be able to do that. And then also, if we're able to impart good financial practices and awareness and those kind of things, when that time comes where we pass away, they'll automatically know what to do with the finances from the insurance or your 401k or whatever they get. They'll automatically know, well, okay, I can't spend all this in one place. because some people, they'll treat it like they won the lottery and blow through the, but kids that have that strong base, like your daughter, she'll say, oh, well, first they'll take, of course, the time to grieve and that kind of stuff. But then hopefully put it into a plan, roll it into a brokerage account or roll it into something else that's going to bear interest and make her life better overall. And so that's why I commend you for, you share with all, but you want to get those young people because they're the next generation. And,
and that's the thing, because we all have heard the stories of these professional athletes who've made millions of dollars who end up broke, right? Mm-hmm. It's just because it's not that they didn't have the means. They had the means. They didn't have the knowledge to know what to do with their money. So my daughter got her first job this past summer. And I'm telling you, the day I brought her home from her interview, we opened up a retirement account for her at 17.
Wow.
So she's like, and a lot of people like 17, 17, because I know that life is about time and investment, and investment, not the amount of money, time in the market, not timing the market. People like, oh, I don't want to get in the market. The market's down, blah, blah, blah. Well, then, okay, I can even give you another side to that. When you're young, you kind of want those downturns in the market. Guess what? You don't want the market to be up all the time because you'll be buying more shares at a cheaper rate. Who wants to go shopping when the prices are high all the time? You wait for stuff you won't sell and then you buy it. It's no different than the market. Yeah. It's no different than the market, but it's just a matter of learning those concepts where you're not panicking when the market is doing that up and down and all that kind of stuff because you have the knowledge that, oh, this is what I'm looking for. Guess what? Then maybe closer towards retirement. All right, we can do other things to protect you from those ups and downs in the market and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's all knowledge based now, knowledge based. So that's what we're here for. Our league is here for. That's what we're here for. Primerica's, and that's what. Hopefully, I hope this resonates with some people, man.
Well, I had
go ahead, Mia, and then we got a couple questions. We want final questions we want to ask you, Derek.
The first one is, and you say, I understand starting young. That is the best way to go. Starting young and getting it, getting your investments early. But what if those people didn't get the message at that time? And then you have the 63. That's cap. So let's talk about the middle folks. That's in the middle. Middle-aged folks. Are they still able? If there's still a opportunity for those middle-aged arena folks?
Is it too late for them?
No, it's never too late. It's never too late. You're going to have to work harder to get where that 25-year-old will be at 67 if you're just starting in your 40s. But it's never too late. Never think that, because money earned is money earned. You know what I mean? If you don't do anything, you're just going to be where you are yesterday. That's just, but so it is important for you to like, all right, I need to start getting my stuff together, because guess what? We don't know when the clock is going to end for us. Let's say you're in your 40s and you live to your 100. You've got 60 years to earn money, to make it work for you. So it's never too late. But as we get older, sometimes our focus and our goals change than when we were in our 20s, but that can be addressed in terms of what you're invested in. When you're young, you might want to be a little bit more aggressive, in terms of what you're investing in. As you get older, like myself, mine has changed where I'm worried about conserving what I have, but I'm still investing, but I'm just not investing as
much
aggressively as I was.
Aggressively. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but I like what she said. I think you got to come up with a plan. You got to, like you said, both sides, like you were saying, everybody in the household has to agree. Husband and wife, and make sure that the family knows what's going on. But it's like, hey, this is where I want to take the household. We're doing well, but I want us to prosper, because you got kind of getting by or doing okay. But then when you're prosperous, then you have more than enough. And that's a mindset too, because some people are like, well, why do I need to do that or whatever? But I always look at, there's so many causes that we support, that we give to each year, different foundations, organizations, and stuff like that. And it's not, like right now we're okay, but I still have to kind of look at a couple things. Instead of, if I had it the way I wanted it, I would have just had money just set aside for charitable giving. It wouldn't mess with nothing else. That's the way I want it. I just want a pot of money that it's just for charitable organizations. Cancer Association or any, Heart Association, any of those. Here you go. I already had it set to the side. Right. Right now I have to budget it, but I would like for it to be where it's more of an overflow type thing, even to the church and other organizations.
Right.
So that's my goal for that. But then also just different things that I would, even for like our foundation, I'd like us to have a program where we, those that are disadvantaged, if they need like their house painted, different things like that. I know there's Habitat for Humanity, but ours wouldn't be on that scale. It would just be people in our community that we see maybe they just need their grass cut or, some landscaping or something. We could just have a landscaper take care of it just to help beautify our community. So those acts of kindness and things like that, that's overall what I want to do. And I kind of see that as what I would like to do in kind of more of my retirement years and that kind of stuff. But I would like it to be funded by, retirement, rental properties or like Airbnb or something like that, that we could also use for ourselves for vacation as well. So that's, those are things, but we're not there yet, but just wanted to share with our listeners and viewers that you got to set a goal. And I think that kind of goes back to you going through the academy, me going through basic training, military and stuff. There's the Derek or the Todd before that training to the Derek and Todd after that training. We would have never thought that we would have made it through that. So once you do that, and then you see the other things that you see, then you're like, wait a minute. All I have to do is put my mind to it and create a goal and work toward it, and I can achieve it. That's it. So that's a big testament to like just where we all are, because I think as far as the individuals we usually run into and stuff, everybody's doing okay, but they're not prospering. So that's like what we're talking about now will get you to the prosperous stage where I wouldn't mind a Nissan GTR one day. That's like my dream car. I'm sure it's a dream car for everybody, but I just want it because and it's so and then I want to feel like I'm okay, like I'm not taking it from somewhere else. Like right now, I would feel like I'm pulling it somewhere else to get something like that. Versus if you plan everything right, then you don't. You won't feel like that. It's just, it's over there. Wash it. You feel fine about it. Park it in the garage and sleep well at night.
It's nothing wrong with what you want. What you want, man. That's life. Because if you're not working towards things that you want and you're only working towards things that you need, it's never going to last. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to have a wish list. I have wish lists. I'm working towards it. But I realize now that I'm a little late. I wish somebody would have been teaching me this stuff in my 20s, and maybe I would have had it. But that does not mean that I can't have it. So
that's right.
Those things, regardless of where I am, what age I am, or anything like that. No, I'm going to have it. I'm just a little bit later getting it than I wanted to.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. Well, we have a couple final questions for you, Derek. One is what was the biggest roadblock to getting started with your work?
In terms of the financial work?
Financial work, yes.
The biggest roadblock is getting people to listen.
Oh,
I'm dead serious, man. I'm dead serious because I don't know what it is I honestly, I don't know what it is. And maybe, lesson from myself is like, when my sister-in-law came to me, was talking about the same stuff that I'm talking to you about, I was very hesitant to listen to her. I was 2 years. It took her to convince me to come onto a meeting. 2 years. And I got on a meeting and they were talking about life insurance, and I felt sick to my stomach because everything that they were hitting on, I was like, oh my goodness, they got me. They got me. Right. So that, and I guess it was one of those things where honestly, when you look at yourself, you don't want to acknowledge that you made a mistake that cost you thousands of dollars. It's one of those things like, oh man, how do I admit that? Like, am I an idiot? No, you're not an idiot, but it's one of those things where you learn from your mistakes. But you just got to take the step forward to say, you know what, I'm going to acknowledge I made a mistake. I'm going to change it. I'm not going to continue along with the mistake because what good is that for? So that's the biggest obstacle, man, is convincing people to be serious about their own situations, because some people are comfortable in misery. That's the norm.
Yes.
It's just the norm, man.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm good.
And then they want their company. They want company with them.
They want company.
Yeah. They want you
Yeah, no.
They want company, man. So that is the biggest obstacle, because I can tell you, I've talked to a lot of groups. I've talked to a lot of people, and I would say out of that group, you probably have 20%, 10 to 20% that actually take it serious.
Yeah.
To actually follow through.
Yeah, I think we can, and just definitely keep doing what you're doing, because I know at least even for us, when we first got started, it was just like, what are you about? Who are you? What's the name of your foundation and this kind of stuff. And then one thing I realized, when you're walking in what you're supposed to do, and you are. And you're passionate about what you're talking about, that will resonate. And then those things, a lot of things start off with word of mouth. Like even for us, people are like, oh, I heard about you. We're like, oh, you did? Did you see our website? No, such and so told me about you guys. I'm like, okay, so word of mouth is still, even in this day and age with all the videos and everything, it's all word of mouth. You help that one, and so it's going to continue to grow, but I definitely understand what you're saying. Sometimes it's not what you see right there. It's kind of happening kind of back behind the scenes. People are, oh man, Derek, get him to talk to your group. He knows what he's talking about. And so those little things, and then also hopefully podcasts like this and things will get, help increase the reach and stuff. But definitely good work, and keep doing that. This one we always like to ask is, where did you find the strength to continue your work on those down times? When things are kind of low.
I'm a family guy, right? Family legacy and everything is everything to me. Like it really is everything to me. So like making sure that I live the life that my grandfather and my grandparents expected me to live, making sure I live up to the expectations that my father had for me. When my father was, diagnosed with cancer, I did a charity ride for John Hopkins for cancer. And I'm gonna tell you right now, it was physically hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like 170 miles or something like that total bike ride. And there was a point in time, man, where I made it all the way from DC all the way up to Howard County, and I was struggling. I mean, my legs were cramping so bad that I literally I thought I was gonna have to call an ambulance. And I thought of my dad. I honestly, in that moment, I thought about my dad. I was on this serious incline hill, and I'm like, he's not giving up. Who am I to give up?
Right.
Who am I? Because I'm in a little bit of pain? Oh, absolutely not. No.
Wow.
I will sit here, I will stretch these legs out, and I will get back on that bike, and I will keep on pedaling. So the biggest satisfaction when I came through that finish line in DC the next day, that he was standing there, my wife was standing there, my daughter, my mom, and my mother-in-law was standing there to support me, because I knew I knew I could have easily had quit. I wanted to quit so bad. Right? My legs were hurting.
And it was
so
straight
bad.
through. Wow.
But I'm like, oh, absolutely not. I can't do it. So for me, it's creating a legacy. I'm hoping through my education and my work and my means and stuff that I will be creating a legacy that will live through my daughter and my future grandkids. So that's what keeps me going.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really good. And then
Legacy.
so what are your plans for the future, Derek?
You know, I'm studying now for an additional license, but my long-term goal, man, is to build that house in the country that I told my grandfather that I would do. That's really the last thing on my list. I want to build that house in the country because one, I love it, and two, I told him I would do it. So for me, it's a must. It's
got to happen.
Got to happen. Got to. No matter how hard.
Yeah. I think I definitely share that. You know my background, Derek. I grew up in the country, and you know, I mean, there's something to be said about being in the more of a suburban area because you know things are close, and plus work or whatever you need access to and those kind of things. But there's something about being out there in the woods, off to yourself, and then if you want to, you know, heat your house with the wood stove or something like that, and hearing the crackle of the fire and stuff like that, and those kind of things. So I think those are kind of those things that take you back to a different time, you know, and then that's not dependent on any utility or anything. I mean, you'll be able to heat your house if you're heating with a wood stove, like when we had power out down in Virginia. I mean, yes, we didn't have lights, but we also had lamps and candles and stuff like that. But the house was always toasted. so that wasn't dependent on any electricity. Cut that wood and carry it on in, and, you know, you're good. So I definitely appreciate that. And I know, knowing you, I know that'll be something that you definitely get done. And then also, we always ask this of our guests. Would you have any advice for parents when communicating with their kids about electronic devices?
You know, just as you know, and from a parent and from retired law enforcement, man, have those real conversations. You know, like our kids are plastered to these daggone phones, man. I mean, it's like their whole life is on these phones. I sat there one day and watched my daughter stand outside at the bus stop, and I'm looking at a whole group of kids standing at the bus stop looking at their phones. They're not even talking to each other.
Yeah,
it's insane. I mean, they live in the same block, going on the same bus, and no one's talking to each other because they're so plastered into their phone. I mean, I'll be honest with you. The electronics thing, it really just bothers me. And I get it. We you know, their generation, they're a little bit different, but this dependency on these phones for everything, to make you feel good, to make you feel bad. So it's just nonstop. There's some point in time you have to put it down, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, and as parents, I mean, this is a touchy one because, like, I didn't want my daughter to have a phone when she got it, right? It was not a decision that was made because of me. I'll be honest with you, right? Her mom made a decision that she wanted her to have a phone, and they went out and bought the phone. I was not with it because I'm very traditional in many ways. We live without phones.
Yeah.
I didn't have a phone until I was in college, right? So my thought process, whether old or not, was like, what you need one for? Like, what do you need it for?
Right.
You know, but
Absolutely.
you have to be cognizant of what they're doing, and you have to check, because there's a lot of straight predators out here, man. I mean, you have a lot of people with really bad intentions. You have a lot of bad information on there where these kids are just, you know, it's just unfortunate, man, that we become a society, a world where people are purposely making content to be disruptive and it just bothers me. You know, it bothers me to our core that even you all have to fight. I mean, this is just common sense stuff.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
To protect kids. Why? You want to know why? I know why. Because of money, right?
Yeah.
Everything's about money.
Yeah.
you know. And
yeah.
I don't know, man. I've been fortunate where as far as I know, my daughter's been responsible with her phone, as far as I know, you know, but my wife was and is one of those people who checks. Like she's going to check, what are you looking at? And this kind of thing. Now, my daughter's getting ready to be the point where she's about to be 18. So, you know, sometimes you got to relinquish some of that control, and I get that. But
yeah,
I'm a police officer at heart, always, right? So I'm always looking for that ulterior motive that people might have. So I'm always looking sideways until, you know, I have confirmed that there is no threat. But the only way to do that is to have the conversation and to double check, because guess what? You are the parent. Regardless of what your kids say, you are the parent, right? That's your right. If you want to, that's your kid. And this is what the rules of the house would be. So that's what my advice would be. You are the parent. You have and always double check. Double check your financial guy. Double check what your kids are saying. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's not saying I think you're a liar. I'm just fact checking. There's nothing wrong with fact checking. And anyone who doesn't want you to fact check, you need to look at them sideways.
That's right. Trust but verify. That's right. I live that same way. I heard you, but let me see it. let me see it with my own eyes. You know, I trust that. You know, and so no, but that was really great, Derek. And then we just wanted to see if you had any final words to our audience. You had another question? Go ahead, man.
Well, I put in the chat, so I didn't know. That's why I said it was going to work.
Say it. You have to say it. You have to say it. Go ahead.
Okay. Liability insurance we are trying to do presentations for the schools here in Prince George's County and then abroad eventually. But with Prince George's County, we needed liability insurance. I don't know if do you run into anything of that for the foundation of us needing liability insurance?
Yeah, for an organization really
to
work with kids.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with the liability insurance in terms of, like, you know, organizations and stuff like that. So I can't really speak on that one.
Okay. So you don't. Yeah. That means you don't offer it then.
No, we don't offer that. No.
Okay.
Yeah, that probably should have been the question. But you know, whenever you're working around kids and stuff like that, besides the background checks and stuff, we
have to do the background checks and fingerprints and
liability insurance, so you can.
So they were saying something about liability insurance.
I don't think it's like if you just present to like an assembly or something, but if you have a program that you're trying to run in conjunction with the school system, or with the county school system and stuff, then you got to have something like that. But that's okay. I mean, I'm glad you asked. You know, maybe there's somebody else that was asking and wanted to know that. Yeah. So, Mia, did you have any other questions before we give let Derek?
Thank you. I've learned some tips. And also too,
you got to continue to invest.
Yes, continue to
invest. You probably learned it's okay to continue to invest as well. You know.
Absolutely. So yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you all so much, man, for having me. I really appreciate it. I love you guys.
Love you
too. So Derek, thanks for being with us tonight. Have a good rest of your day, okay?
All right, my brothers and sisters.